Thanks for pressing play on this episode of Two and Out as we continue to preview all 9 teams in the Canadian Football League. We are now on to team number 4, and that is Tiger Town, Steel Town, the Hammer. We're going to be talking black and gold, the Hamilton Tiger Cats, for the next 25 minutes or so with Mike Graham of Podskee Wee Wee celebrating 10 years of podcasting this year. Mike, where's the time go?
It's crazy. I think our first episode was after the infamous 2014 Grey Cup, the block in the back. So we kicked it off on a low note, and then we continued all the way until 2025. So it's been a lot of fun. There's been some good teams in there. There have been some bad teams in there, but all along, Josh and I have had a good time talking Hamilton Tiger Cat football.
Man, so obviously you planned going into that show that you would be starting a podcast. After that game, was there any consideration of just quitting before ever getting going?
I'm sure it was in the back of our mind, but we already committed to it. So we thought maybe let's see how the first episode goes, and then we'll go from there. But that's just how it goes when you're a Hamilton Tiger Cat fan. It hurts sometimes, so you got to plow through it.
I feel like Tiger fans are just like calloused. The scar tissue is building up year after year. And I guess when you start your podcasting journey, have you guys had 3 Grey Cup losses since you started the show? I hate to rub it in, but man, that's rough.
It might be 4.
Oh.
No. Yeah, 3. Yeah, the one right before that was the Saskatchewan one. But it's been 2 against Winnipeg, 1 against Calgary, and we've been close in a couple of those. Well, 2 of those we got blowout, and then another one, the block in the back was obviously a very close game. And the 2021 Bombers game was pretty close at home. You had that drop pass in the end zone, which was heartbreaking as well, right at the end of the game. The kneel down to give up the Rouge. There's been some bozo happenings within the Ticats to, embarrassing losses. But, that's just what it's like being a sports fan sometimes. You just have to accept it. And hopefully we will, get that Grey Cup victory soon, because I think the Hamilton Tiger Cat fan base deserves it. They've been pretty damn loyal over the years.
I see you semi-regularly at Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton. I'm wearing the green and white. You're wearing the black and gold. I always see there's a Bomber fan that sits in my section, so you're always flying the colors. I do appreciate that. Last year, Ticats going 7-11, missing the playoffs. But then by the end of the year, it was like, I know moral victories in sports don't really go hand in hand, but it felt like, I don't know, there was almost a little bit of hope, and they were trending in the right direction, at least with Levi Mitchell, because he still gets nominated for the awards. Mm-hmm. An injury that didn't need to take place in the season. Remember, wasn't he out there for like a sneak, and he ends up, hurting his leg? Like,
I think that was the year before.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
And he recovered from that injury, and it's been a rocky road for Levi Mitchell.
It has.
Tiger Cats, because you're right, he gets injured on that he was still in there for some reason on a sneak play near the end of the game, breaks his leg. He was healthy enough to come back for the playoff game. They played Matthew Schultz instead, which obviously didn't make him very happy. I thought that might have been the end of the relationship right there. Then he comes back the year after, and he ended up having a tremendous season, an MOP type season. But we got to remember that he was pulled after a Montreal game, and the starting job was given to Taylor Powell. And the only reason Levi Mitchell got back in there was because Taylor Powell got injured and Bo performed so well. So it's been a very up and down road for Bo and the team, but I'm hoping this year he can stay healthy. I think that they have a tremendous offense to help him out. I think the offensive line is really solid. I think the receivers, the running back, everything's good on the offensive side of the ball. He just has to stay healthy and do his thing. Now, there is a bit of a question mark because last year was a really good year, but as you guys know, 3 or 4 previous seasons weren't so great for Bo. So I'm not necessarily sold on he's going to be the Bo from last year, or is he going to be the Bo from the 3 previous years?
Yeah, last year he had 5,400 passing yards, 32 touchdowns. That's clearly his best season since Calgary won the Grey Cup in Edmonton back in 2018. So numbers-wise, obviously it was his best season, but the Ticats early in the year, they couldn't keep the ball out of their own end zone, and he threw 18 interceptions last year, and that's actually a career high for him. So protecting the ball was a problem for the Ticats as well.
Yeah.
Now,
and he was a lot better. Sorry to interrupt you there. Yeah. He did get a lot better throughout the season. That was one of the main Scott Milanovich's problems with Bo, was he was turning the ball over too much. But after he got pulled, came back in, he reduced the number of interceptions in a big way. So let's hope he continues that into 2025.
Does this feel like Bo's last ride then?
Like, you listen, 35 is, I mean, look at Trevor Harris in Saskatchewan, right? He's older. Is he like 38, 37, 38? So quarterbacks can play.
Yeah.
Look at Tom Brady. He played till he was, and then obviously he's a special athlete, but it depends how he feels. I think that he's probably made enough money in his career to step aside. I think he has a cushy job probably with TSN after he's done. So it's all up to him. I thought he said something about if he wins the championship, maybe he'll hang up the cleats. But we'll see. I hope that, because I'm not sure, like, I like Taylor Powell and everything. I'm not sure he's the next guy. He hasn't shown me, he's shown that he can play the position and he can keep the team afloat when the starting quarterback's injured, but I don't know if he can actually perform as a starting quarterback for 18 games, right? So I hope Bo has a couple more years left in him of high quality football, but you never know, right?
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned it a little bit about Scott Milanovich pulling Bo with the turnovers and stuff last year. So it did seem like their relationship was pretty strained at some point, and then now it kind of seems like they're back on the same page. So do you see that staying the same? Like, do you think that he's going to have like a longer leash than he did maybe last year?
Yeah, I would think so. If you put up those kind of numbers, 5,400 yards passing. It's you don't see it very often in the CFL anymore, where quarterbacks go over that 5,000 yard threshold. We used to see it all the time, but it's not necessarily a thing that they do a lot now. So I think there will be a longer leash, but I also think that Scott, doesn't play around. If he doesn't like how Bo's performing, he will make a switch. But I don't think if he throws a couple interceptions in the first 3 games, I don't think he's going to be pulled out of there or anything like that.
Yeah, awesome.
Any of those departures with the Ticats that stand out to you? I know James Butler is there or gone now, but that relationship was another one that seemed strained last year anyway. Changes on the offensive line. David Beard is back in Edmonton. A lot of defensive line changes for the Ticats as well. It's Stephen Dunbar back in Edmonton as well. What stands out to you with who's no longer with the team?
Well, James Butler is a guy that I really liked, but you have Greg Bell coming in, and I just think he's a more explosive runner than James Butler. James Butler might be the better overall player with the blocking and the catching the ball in the backfield, but I think Greg Bell will fill in just fine. David Beard was a big loss. He is a tremendous center, but we brought a guy in like Liam Dobson to play right guard, and then they shift over. This is just presumption on my part. I'm assuming Wood Manzi will be the center, and we still have guys like Revner and the left tackle Bordner and Murray. I think those are very strong tackles. So I'm not concerned about the offensive line. They brought in some guys last year from the Argonauts who, along the defensive line, Hendricks, Barlow, that they expected to, take that next step in their career, and it just didn't happen. My biggest concern on this team is the defensive line. I mean, you look back over the years of Hamilton Tiger Cat success in the 1960s. They had a dominant defensive line. They won Grey Cup. They won 3 Grey Cups in that decade.
That's a long tradition of D linemen in the Hammer, yeah.
And then in the 1970s, 1972, the continuation from the 60s, they had strong defense. So 1986, the Grey Cup game, they absolutely dominated Edmonton with like 10 sacks. That's the reason they won that Grey Cup. And then you go to 1999 with guys like Joe Montfort leading the way. And I just look at this defensive line, and it's not Hamilton Tiger Cat defensive line to me. It's like, and I know that every year there's new guys that come into this league that become superstars, but I'm just looking at it, and Casey Sales is the only guy that I can really depend on along that defensive line. I mean, on the defensive ends, you got young guys that came over from Winnipeg like Garbutt, and defensive tackle Fox. I don't know who's going to be on the other defensive end. You got McCarroll and Wage, but those guys are completely unknown. So I'm concerned about the defensive line, and maybe I'll be completely wrong and they'll be great, but I'm just looking at it right now and I'm like, this just doesn't look very good.
Fair. So let's talk about some additions now. Obviously, the first matchups off the page, Kenny Lawler, one of the best receivers in the league. So you can talk about him if you'd like. But let me know, who do you think are like the top three, let's say, of the new signees that you think are going to jump in and make an immediate impact?
Well, I think Kenny Lawler, depending on, his health, right? That always the big question with him is, can he stay healthy? And I don't expect him to play 18 games. I mean, that's a real tough ask, but he would definitely be one of the biggest signings. At the linebacker position, you have a guy like Stubblefield coming in, had a tremendous rookie season with the Montreal Alouettes. He's coming off a knee injury, but I think in this day and age, you don't have to worry about those injuries as much. The modern technology, modern medicine just makes, they can bounce back from that. And then in the secondary, you got a guy like Amos, who was brought in, and I think he will do a tremendous job. You look at the secondary, like guys like Jamal Peters and Talbert and Castantonis, Amos, Jonathan Moxey. I think they're very strong in the secondary. So if I had to name three, it would be Kenny Lawler, Stubblefield, and Amos, the three biggest free agent signings.
Do you think the addition of Lawler is going to help a guy like Tim White out? You remember last year, he got the dropsies as early in the year, but still, he finished with the most targets he's ever had in his career. Third straight year of over 1,100 yards. Third straight year of 8 touchdowns. With Lawler there, I have to assume Bo is going to rely on him, and maybe White will be able to settle in a little bit. But either way, that's a dynamic duo, whichever way you look at it.
And then you can add in the Shamar Bridges to that as well. I mean, a guy that could have won Rookie of the Year. So they do have a very strong receiving core. There's no doubt about it. Tim White is kind of deceiving, in my opinion. If you watch every single game, he just doesn't show up sometimes. It's like he disappears. And not to mention the dropsies. And not just like 5-yard, dropsies, like touchdown dropsies, very important catches that he's supposed to make when you're, making $275,000 or whatever he's making right now. But I do think the addition of Kenny Lawler might help Tim White, take the pressure off him. He's not going to have to be that number one guy all the time if Kenny Lawler is healthy enough. And Shamar Bridges is a very talented dude as well. Not to mention our Canadian depth at the receiver position with Keandre Smith, an up-and-coming guy who's very talented. They brought in Drew Wolotarski as well, and you got guys like Brandon O'Leary-Orange who are talented dudes. There's a lot of depth when it comes to Canadian receiving, and I think they're a very, very strong core, and I think they're going to do good things.
Just looking at the roster, is it fair to say that it could be some of the same from last year, where the offense is able to get chunks of yards and put up points, and the defense will do the same for the opposing offense? Let them, march down the field. That's just what it looks like. Some of the same issues as last year are carrying over.
Yeah, it does appear like that on paper. Like I mentioned with the defensive line, it doesn't matter if the secondary is an all-star laden unit. If the defensive line can't get pressure, then they're going to have a lot of problems. And, the new defensive coordinator, Brett Monsoon, comes over from Calgary. And I know that he's a guy that is very respected within the league. But I just have my questions about him too. Like, it's not like Calgary's defense was lighting the world on fire. And I don't know if that's a personnel thing from last year or whatever, but I'm just going to have to see. It's a wait and see approach when it comes to Brett Monsoon. And we wanted to get rid of Mark Washington for a long time in Hamilton. He had a pretty good start to his Ticat tenure, but then it just kind of fell off. And that happens with coaches. Like, the best coaches get fired eventually. So I'm hoping that he has the personnel to, call the right schemes and have success on defense, because it could be the case that the Ticat offense averages 35 points a game, but then the defense gives up 36. So I'm just hoping that that's not the case.
The Ticats, they seem to be almost like a team in transition a little bit, but you have a 35-year-old quarterback. Milanovich is in his second year, but a new GM, Ted Goveia, and the new defensive coordinator. So there's some things the same, some things are shifting here and there. Ted Goveia comes from that franchise in Winnipeg, and we know the success that the Bombers have had. Everybody in the West knows. Ticat fans know they've run into those Bombers in a couple Grey Cups too. Are you hoping that, obviously you are, some of that winning culture that Goveia enjoyed in Winnipeg will be able to bring it over to the Hammer?
Yes, that would be delightful. I would like that very much. But you just never know, right? I was hoping there was going to be a combination of Goveia and Danny McManus, bringing McManus back to where he belongs. And he's a local guy, so I like that about Ted. You watch his pressers when he first got to the team, and he's very passionate about the team, very passionate about the city. So I am hopeful that he can build a team that we can be proud of. Like, listen, the East is going to be strong again this year, and that's something I rarely say going into the season. Like, I think that the teams are all pretty good, and Hamilton's going to have to step it up a little bit, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So it's going to be a tough ride, but I think that they're going to be competitive. I'm not sure if they're going to be competitive for a championship this year, but I think that they'll be able to maybe squeak into the playoffs, and then we'll see what happens from there.
So here we are, a couple weeks before the season, and it's no longer Tim Hortons Field. Are there names in the works, or are we going to know before the season, or what's happening?
I think they should go back to. I know that in this day and age, it's all about the corporate money and stuff. I'd love to see them go back to Iberwin Stadium.
That'd be awesome.
That's the stadium that I grew up in. That's my second home when I was growing up. So, but I haven't heard anything about naming rights or anything like that. I think Edmonton just got a new sponsorship for Commonwealth.
Play Alberta Field. Yeah.
Yes. So it's always good to get the money coming in. So I hope they find something that's suitable to the Tiger Cat franchise in the stadium to not make it something silly. You know what I mean? Like, I saw the giant tiger thrown out there a while ago on Twitter, and I don't know if they have the money to sponsor it or whatever, but that would be a perfect fit.
Well, Rogers keeps naming all these new stadiums and arenas and places, so maybe it'll be Rogers.
Yeah, Rogers Stadium. That would.
Rogers Stadium Field.
I wouldn't like that very much. So.
No, I know.
I think we were both hoping that Krispy Kreme would step up so it could still be the donut box.
Yeah.
See, I was never really a huge fan of the donut box thing, but I guess it kind of grew on me a bit. Tim Hortons Field had its purpose, and they were a sponsor for quite a while. So I'm happy that they were there in the first 10 or so years of the stadium, but now they're looking for something new, and hopefully it's a suitable partnership.
Now, I'm just spitballing here. Does Arm & Hammer make kitty litter?
Hey, you got the hammer in there. Like,
so would you rather the donut box or the litter box?
I think the litter box. I like that. They usually take a shit at home.
Just as training camp moves along here, I know you said you're concerned about the D line. Are there any other sort of position groups that you're keeping an eye on as training camp moves along?
Yeah, The linebackers are a bit of a question. You got some guys that, Kyle Wilson will probably be the wide side, and then they're probably going to go Canadian, either Baker or Hoyt at middle linebacker, then Stubblefield. So those guys aren't exactly proven in the league. So to me, it's all about the defensive line and the linebackers. Like the offense to me is set. Like I am happy with how this is looking offensively. Like I said, I think the offensive line is really strong, even with the departure of David Beard to Edmonton. I think that they can fill in for his spot in the interior of that offensive line. I think the tackles are strong. I think the wide receivers are stacked, and I really like the new running back. So, and I think the Canadian depth has improved from last year as well. So, um, the offense is good with me. It's just all about the defensive line and the linebackers, in my opinion, that are concerns. The kicking game is fine. The punter, I'm not worried about. The return games is going to be okay. So other than the D line and the linebackers, I'm pretty happy of the way that they built this team.
The Ticats open up their season in Calgary. Levi Mitchell and his old stomping grounds at McMahon Stadium. And then their home opener, June 14th, against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Is it fair to say, Mike, that you're the baby face of the podcast? Podskee Wee Wee. Or can you both be? I guess you could both be heels. You don't have
a heel tag. We can be a heel tag team.
That's
the
true.
Foundation.
But Josh, he brings
the heel energy sometimes.
He does. He does.
I don't bring it as much. I'm a bit of a tweener. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I can respect that.
I can be nasty, but I can be a good guy too. There's a couple sides to old Mikey.
Hey, I've seen you a few beers deep in Commonwealth. Yeah.
Yes. No. Yeah. Yes, you have. That's true.
And I look forward to many more because August long weekend, it's Ticats and Elks, and it's a 1:00 game, so there's lots of time after the game to get after it as well. That sounds like a good Saturday. Yeah.
Some early beers, you know what I mean? I like that. I like the sun shining. Hopefully it's a nice day, and I miss getting out there watching some live football. I'm glad that the off season is almost over and we can actually get to watching some CFL football. And I think I'm very optimistic about the season this year, just like overall the CFL as a whole. I think that the quarterbacks in the league are very strong. Each team has a very solid starting quarterback. I think we're going to watch some really good football this year.
It was so weird. Last year, there was no because Bo, he's not in the playoffs, but he gets nominated for MOP. We don't normally see that, but it's not like the other quarterbacks were bad.
No.
It wasn't bad football, but hopefully guys can stay healthy and put up some numbers that way.
I mean, you got you separated guys like Nathan Rourke and Vernon Adams, who are obviously high caliber starting quarterbacks, and now they're going to be on separate teams doing their thing. So I enjoyed the football a lot last year. I thought, the moving of the hash marks and stuff like that a couple years ago, I think improved the product. I think it's, the offenses are just flowing a little bit better. The scoring is up. Everything's basically up. So I'm very optimistic. And then maybe with the, with Canada, having that extra pride this year, maybe some people buy a ticket to a CFL game that necessarily wouldn't before, and give it a chance. That's what I'm hoping anyway, because I'm hoping for big crowds in every city and just great atmospheres and great football.
Yeah, we're going to have 40,000 in BC, faux shizzle, because Snoop Dogg is going to be doing their concert kickoff. Sheldon, I'll throw to you here. There's been some new rules coming into play this season. So we might as well just throw it in here before we wrap up here.
They basically a lot of it's player safety.
Okay.
You can if a player is if a receiver's going for a catch and they haven't jumped in the air, you can't take them out at the knees anymore. That's going to be a major penalty. If you hit the quarterback with the crown of your head to their head, that's going to be like a 25-yard penalty and an automatic ejection. They've also changed for major penalties. So any roughing the passer, anything like that, face masking, no longer will it be half the distance to the goal. If you're on the 20-yard line, it's a 15-yard penalty. You're going all the way to the 5 or close. Like, you know what I mean? So, like I said, nothing too crazy, but I like all the changes so far.
Yeah. Those are some decent changes, minor stuff. We still have 3 downs, so.
There you go. Yeah. Over the years, they've been making tweaks to the game. And I don't think they have to do that anymore. I think that it's in a good place, and they can focus on more important things like player safety. So, it's a good direction. I mean, listen, I think the CFL is in a pretty good spot right now. That unexpected bump in the salary cap. I mean, they wouldn't have done that if they didn't have any money to do it, right?
It was a big jump too.
Yeah, for sure. I was very happy with that. So, it's a good sign that they're not, tweaking the game too much anymore, because I think that they've tweaked it to a perfect amount, and it's in a good place right now.
Yeah, and it's good that this is the second year in a row where they haven't touched the kicking, like kickoff and stuff, which I'm really glad, because it's such a dynamic part of the CFL game, the kick returning. So
absolutely, and it's like the only, the NFL, there's no kickoff returns anymore, really. It's just all kneeling, in the other leagues, it's very similar. So that's a unique Canadian football thing that is very exciting to the game, and I love that they did, because there was talk about changing it, right? So I'm glad that they, and if it's necessary for player safety, then I understand, but I'm glad that they haven't tweaked it too much.
Yeah.
Mike Graham is the co-host of the Podskee Wee Wee podcast. He is a Ticats fan living in Edmonton. Thanks for being here to talk black and gold.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it, and it's going to be a very exciting 9-8-1 season for the Hamilton Ticats.
We celebrate mediocrity. Who's the tie against?
I haven't decided that.
Okay.
But, I'll let you know when it comes to me.
You can rate, review, and subscribe to Tune Out on your favorite podcatcher and on YouTube. That is preview 4 of 9, so stick around and we'll be uploading the other 5 as the days go on. The CFL season is almost here.